Hi, my name is Megan Ingfan with the Sunrise Tribune. Please state your name for the interview.
Hi everybody, my name is Christopher Rowe.
And are you okay with us recording this interview?
Yes, that would be really perfect today.
So, you are currently employed with an airline and you were employed with the same airline during the pandemic. You're what we considered an essential worker. Were your biggest fears in the beginning of the pandemic?
Well, being employed with JetBlue, and working in the aviation industry and working in the airport and having to travel on planes daily for work, I would definitely say that one of my biggest fears was the fact that one, people weren't abiding by the mask mandates, and thankfully, the federal government in the United States they implemented the mandate to where people are regulated to wear masks in the airport now. Seeing that people weren't wearing masks, it just was a really big fear because this virus was easily transmissible, and seeing that the airport is a high traffic place, high traffic volume, it was that was definitely something needed. Also, traveling and commuting on an airplane too, being in an enclosed place, it definitely sparked a little fear in me also.
Do you remember the early days of the pandemic, when we were so unsure of what was happening and going on in the world around us? Can you describe to us what those early feelings felt like?
It was just so weird. It was something that we weren't accustomed to, and we just felt like as though like we were in the unknown, and something that we thought that was gonna you know pass over in 3 months. We are now going into the 19th month of this pandemic.
And do you feel less fearful now, recalling those early feelings? Do you feel less afraid going on a plane now than you did, say, a year ago?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, I think that in the past year I've traveled on many flights now. Being vaccinated has definitely helped. And just being accustomed to what might just be the new norms or the new way of life.
And we're just a few short months from hitting the 2 year mark on this pandemic. Do you think that we are close to the end, or do you just foresee this being our new normal?
So the thing is, I do think that there is going to be a new normal in regards to what COVID-19 has done to the world. Do I think that, like other viruses and other pandemics, can it be can it disappear? Yeah, sure. And I think that's definitely with people being vaccinated. I think with mask mandates, and then even the people who have been infected with COVID-19, with those antibodies, can hopefully bring some form of herd immunity.
And what do you think we can do to promote more people getting vaccinated?
Well, um, I think at this point it's a cultural thing. More celebrities have to be more responsible in what they promote on their social media. I think that currently the government has definitely tried their best to get people vaccinated, but unfortunately, this whole pandemic has now become a political divide. Um, it's very hard living here and seeing other countries where, you know, I would like to use Finland for an example. 95% of the adults there are vaccinated currently, and that's not even without a mandate. So I really do think that it's a cultural thing, but I do believe that celebrities and people of high influence definitely need to be more responsible in the content that they put out.
You talk a lot about celebrities being more responsible. Wouldn't you say that that's more of the responsibility, especially of our government and politicians, more so than our celebrities?
Yes, and that goes back to what I was referring about the political divide. I mean, we have one political party here in the United States that promotes the vaccine, that promotes mask wearing, that promotes social distancing, and then we have another party, unfortunately, that you know does not really promote mask wearing, and does not really promote the vaccine the way that they should, and because of that, that's where the issue lies, at least here in the United States currently.
Do you firmly believe that if every state were to implement mask mandates, that this pandemic would have ended already?
The mask mandate, I believe, only goes so far. I think that right now, COVID has now become a pandemic of the vaccinated.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
I believe that the people who are vaccinated currently, they stand a much better chance of survival, to where I realize that a lot of the victims, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 97% of the victims in hospitals right now are patients who are not vaccinated, and they're the ones that are suffering. They're the ones that are unfortunately dying, and yeah.
Let's go back to talking about the early days of the pandemic. You are in the travel industry, as we've mentioned, and you seem to be used to being out in the open. Were the early days of quarantine difficult for you to adjust to, being on lockdown?
Yes, that was very hard for me, especially being a guy who is really into sports. So in the beginning, the fact that in just one day there was no more basketball, there was no more soccer, there was no more nothing. That was just quite weird. I've never known a world of no sports, no type of competition.
Do you remember your first, I'll say, official outing once lockdown was lifted?
Oh yes, a trip to Publix.
So you didn't go to Publix or a grocery store the entire pandemic?
It took a while.
So that was your first place to go to?
I believe so. That, or maybe a drive around town.
And did it feel weird or eerie to be out of the confinement of your home?
It felt very weird. It felt extremely weird, like Armageddon. The apocalypse was happening. That's how it felt.
What would you say was the thing, I mean, you mentioned liking sports and traveling, that you were most looking forward to while in lockdown, and have you participated in that as yet?
Yes. Without a doubt, I think that the two things that I was definitely looking forward to was sports resuming, being able to attend sports games, and just being able to just go back on a plane and travel. And since then I've taken numerous trips, and I've actually gotten a chance to see games overseas. I got a chance to attend the Miami Heat game last season, so yeah, for sure.
And do you think that we will eventually live in a world where we don't see anyone wearing masks? I know we live in Florida, so that's already a thing that we don't really see, but once you leave Florida, you do see people wearing masks. Do you think that eventually we will get rid of masks, or do you think that that's part of the new normal?
In the United States, that is something that we won't see going forwards, because mask, I believe, in this country symbolizes, for some odd reason, freedom. In other countries, let's remember, in China, Asia, China, Japan, South Korea, and a lot of these other countries in Asia, mask wearing has been a thing even prior to COVID, to stop influenza and other type of SARS diseases.
But we can also debate that part of the reason that a lot of people don't want to get vaccinated is the vaccinated still have to wear masks, and we now know that it is possible for the vaccinated to get COVID. What do you say to those people that have that hesitancy about getting vaccinated?
It's common sense, and numbers don't lie, data doesn't lie, science doesn't lie. I trust doctors and scientists who have spent their entire life doing research more than somebody who knows nothing about diseases and viruses, etc.
You talk a lot about missing traveling. So many industries have been hit hard by the pandemic, travel industry included. Do you think that the travel industry will make a full recovery if it hasn't already recovered?
So the travel industry itself has not fully recovered. I believe here in the United States, domestic traveling and traveling to Mexico, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, and Puerto Rico has definitely been on the rise. That's why you find a lot of domestic carriers have actually ramped up their frequencies to a lot of cities and added more routes. In regards to transatlantic travel and even trans-Pacific travel, that is going to take some time to recover, especially with Europe mandating fully vaccinated passengers to be able to enter their country. I do know that a lot of people are itching to get back over there and itching to see the world and backpack, etc. But I don't see that aspect of the travel industry coming back. Maybe we'll give it another year. As for the cruising industry, I believe that uh, that one might take a little while longer to come back compared to aviation, because remember, even with the airline industry, people travel for work and people want to visit family, friends, relatives, etc.
The pandemic also taught a lot of us, we learned a lot about ourselves and a lot about our families. What do you think, in terms of mental health, was one of the most difficult things for people to adjust to?
Oh, mental health is huge. Even from the beginning of the pandemic last year, March, I kept saying over and over and over, yes, there will be a lot of fatalities, but the number one thing that is going to really come out of this thing is mental health. I mean, let's think about it. Kids were not able to go to school for more than a year. And kids at a certain age, they have to be social. They have to be around other children for their development. And just even, spouses, everything. I think that, people just being confined into like small apartments or confined to their houses and not being able to have outside social life. I mean, if you look at the statistics, domestic violence is up, crime is out of control right now in the United States, and I think all of this is stemming from people with that suffered mental health issues due to this pandemic.
What would you say was the most difficult thing for you in terms of your mental health during the pandemic?
I would say the most difficult thing for me was at times it's not, being able to see my family. I think even not even going to work for the 6-7 months, I was unemployed from March until
just being able to socialize, you think?
October. So that's 7 months, and that was just difficult. I was just confined to this small apartment, and yeah, that definitely. Some days you have your ups and your downs.
What were some of the ways that you were coping for your mental health and sanity during the pandemic? We're still in the pandemic, so right now.
Tennis. I picked up a new hobby playing tennis, and I think that definitely in the beginning, in end of March, April, for most of last year, was definitely helped me cope with what was happening and being able to play tennis. And you can play with your friends, but everybody can still social distance more or less, and that was a big help for me for sure.
Do you think that if everyone who's been suffering with mental health due to the pandemic, learned a new sport or, decided to learn a new language, do you think that would help ease their mental health?
So yes, picking up new hobbies, definitely. A lot of people started engaging in new hobbies such as hiking, a lot of outdoors. At one point I was fishing a lot, just being outdoors, boating, things like that. Going back to even the travel industry, one of the biggest routes during this pandemic, it was to Wyoming and the Yellowstone National Park. and Red Rock Canyon and these places in Arizona and etc. So I do think that a lot of people did pick up a lot of new hobbies throughout the pandemic, and that's what helped people cope mentally for sure.
What would you say is your biggest lesson that you've learned during the pandemic?
Life is short. Life is short, and you know, there's really no time for negativity in this world. Love your family, love your friend, and you just don't know, because so many people right now in this entire world is suffering a lot because this pandemic has really caused a lot of chaos in a lot of people's lives. 687,000 Americans are dead right now.
And what are you most looking forward to when all of this is over? Yes, we've been able to travel a little bit, maybe go to some sporting events, but there's still a lot we haven't been able to do. What would you say is the thing you're looking forward to the most?
Music festivals, carnival celebrations, being able to go frequent lounges, bars, nightclubs again, and being in settings with a large amount of people.
And are you open to doing anything like that if it's not, where everybody must be fully vaccinated?
In the short term, yes. In the long term, no. I believe once I see numbers dwindle down to, for instance, in the United States, if we can see 4 or 5, even to up to 1,000 cases federally, nationally, that's fine. Or if it is to where I'm in England and I'm seeing, several hundred cases, yeah, I have no problem being in places where people aren't vaccinated, especially because I'm vaccinated. And, when I get the opportunity to get a booster, I will. And, I want to make sure that my immune system and everything is up to par. So where at least I know myself, I am safe.
And lastly, I just have to ask, there's so many people that we have to thank for all their hard work in keeping all of us safe during the pandemic, but who would you say deserves the most recognition for all their hard work during the pandemic?
Uncle Fossey. Uncle Anthony Tony Fossey. Dr. Fossey. I think Dr. Fossey has been amazing. I think that, he has, in one regard, he has been able to gain the respect that he deserves, but it's unfortunate that on the other side of the political spectrum, he's looked at as a savage. He's looked at, I've heard him say he's a devil and etc. And but I think Dr. Fossey has really, 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 really been vital in.
Do you think he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves?
He gets the recognition from half the country, and then unfortunately from the other half of the country, they believe that Dr. Fossey is a joke. But and alongside Dr. Fossey, we have to big up our nurses, right? And then our nurses and even the doctors who have just worked tremendously and long and have sacrificed so much. So we definitely have to mention all those hardworking nurses and doctors out there for sure.
For sure. I think without them, we would not be where we are today. I also think that we have so many other the smaller people that don't get recognition that play such a big part in keeping us, healthy and safe. And, think about all the sanitation workers and grocery stores and things like that. They also, deserve a really.
Yeah, I agree. Just so many essential workers out there, and as you said, grocery stores, schools now, even somebody like myself working in the airport and making sure that flights go out on time and that people are able to still visit their family and friends. And they're just it has to be a collective effort, and there are so many heroes right now during this pandemic.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for your time and chatting with us, and we hope that you get to travel and go and watch all your sports very, very soon.
Sounds like a great plan, and this was a really great interview. And thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome.